Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Dux-Soup webinar, where Giles, the head of professional services, will show you how to use Dux-Soup Turbo and remote control function. We also have a live chat where you can ask questions related to this webinar's topic, and I'll do my best to answer them. I am Jen, the head of customer support, and at the end of the webinar, we will have Q&A with Giles. And thank you for joining us today, and let's start our webinar.
Thank you, Jen, and hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone joining today's Dux-Soup webinar, be that live or recorded. Happy to welcome all of you to the webinar today. I think we have a slightly smaller audience than usual due to it being the middle of the summer holidays. So thank you to all of those who are joining us live, and of course, anybody who's watching this back on record as well. Firstly, for anyone who's not familiar with Dux-Soup webinars, let me introduce myself first of all. My name is Giles Garnett. I'm head of professional services here at Dux-Soup, and I present these webinars for Dux-Soup. And if you require additional support or consultancy through our booster or technical calls, I'm responsible for running those. You'll also find me sometimes on the support calls, assisting with troubleshooting, etc. So today we are going to cover one of our more technical topics, so how to make use of the remote control commands that are available to you as a Dux-Soup Turbo user. And as this webinar is aimed towards current or prospective Turbo users, I'm going to assume that there is a certain degree of understanding with some of the terminology I'm going to be using. If you've got questions, then of course, yes, ask them via the chat. And as always, while I'm presenting, Jen will be doing her best to answer all of those questions, but do try to keep the questions on topic. Hopefully they'll be useful for the rest of the audience, and other questions can always be raised via the Dux-Soup support pages. And anything that's appropriate, Jen will raise to me at the end of the webinar. As always, this session is being recorded and will be made available to anyone who's registered via an email in the coming days, and also be added to our website and YouTube channel. And as per usual, there's going to be a mix of a few slides and some live demo, and hopefully everything will become clear as I take you through the step-by-step processes of how to make use of the remote control functions. So this is the agenda for today. The remote control, what is it and why would you want to use it? We're going to talk through some scenarios from within Pipedrive and Hubspot, which of course are our direct integrations, and then from other systems as well. We're going to look at some complexity that you can add into making use of these functions. We've added a whole load of new commands in the last few months. It used to be a very basic set of commands that you could trigger from the remote control, but now we have a whole list of commands, which we'll come on to a second. And then at the very end, I've got a little bonus treat for everyone to see how you can now use some new triggers within Zapier to help simplify Zap creation and make that more effective, basically enabling you to get rid of the webhook activities that sometimes I know can baffle and confuse people sometimes. So we have a more simplified way of doing that now within Zapier, also coming soon in Integromat as well. So what is the remote control? Well, the Dux-Soup remote control, with the Dux-Soup remote control, you can trigger automated LinkedIn actions from outside of the web browser. So that means you can trigger the sending of a connection request, including a personalized message to a specific profile in LinkedIn, from example, from HubSpot. You can trigger this when a new lead is created and the LinkedIn profile URL is added. So the LinkedIn profile URL is really, really important to have that in order for it to work correctly. There's a list here of remote control commands that you can use, and they basically echo the automated actions that you see under your Dux-Soup options. So you can see here we've got visit, connect, message, enroll. You can now enroll people into your chosen campaign, in-mail, tag, save to PDF, follow, disconnect, endorse, and save as lead. I'll put a URL here. Maybe June can put that into the chat as well. That may be useful. There's a document there. If you just hang on a second, I'll pull that up on my screen as well. Bear with me one second. Find it from the right screen. There we go. So here we are under our support pages here. We have this document here, which goes through the remote controls by example and gives you the information around all of the different commands that are possible to use using Dux Soup. And I'll also go through how all of this works shortly as well, showing you that into your Dux Soup options. You can also test your remote control commands via the test tool. There's the URL here, and again, I'll show you that shortly as well. You can use the direct integration with Hubspot and Pipedrive. That's very intuitive, very simple. But then also with using Zapier and Integromat, you can really increase your levels of customization and complexity and build your own campaigns and your own workflows, depending on your chosen set of criteria that you have, depending on the source that you're using as well. So where you're keeping your data, be that in a different CRM, maybe Zoho or ActiveCampaign or something like that, or even if it's from within a Google Sheet. And what I'm going to do when I demo in a short while, I'm going to show you very simply within a Google Sheet how you can trigger these things, but all of those activities can also be applied to a CRM. One thing to remember, anything that you've triggered via the remote control, you can check out your queue in the Dux Dash, and I'll be showing you that regularly during the demo, so you can see exactly how that works and where you can see that. So just to go into a little bit more detail then on HubSpot and Pipedrive. So these simple remote control commands can be triggered from within the CRM. You can carry out auto visits, you can enroll people into your chosen campaign, you can message them, which is basically sending a standard first-degree LinkedIn message, and you can send connection requests with also the optional connection request message going there. That can be done from both HubSpot and Pipedrive. I'll demo that very shortly. I'm aware that a lot of people are importing contacts into their HubSpot and Pipedrive, either dynamically using Dux Soup or manually, sometimes importing through a CSV file. The thing that's really important for the remote control commands to work, the LinkedIn URL needs to be there per contact and in the correct field. So if you do import contacts, make sure that LinkedIn URL is appearing in the correct field, because then Dux Soup knows where to go to carry out your chosen activity. The remote control using Zapier and Integromat. So basically here, you need to choose the trigger depending on your platform. So if it's a CRM or if it's a Google Sheet, it could be a new contact, a new lead, or maybe a change in lead status. As long as it's a trigger that can be picked up in Zapier or Integromat, you can use it. And once you have that trigger, you can add filters, paths, etc., and build multi-step activities with delays, etc., for your message flows to go out. You can basically build your own custom campaign within Integromat or Zapier. You could enroll people in your chosen campaign that you've defined in Dux Soup as well. So if you've defined that campaign, you can just trigger that from within those environments as well. And you can do this with any platform that's integrated with Zapier or Integromat. And again, the most important data you need to have is the LinkedIn URL, because without this, there's no place for Dux Soup to carry out your chosen activity. And then finally, the new Zapier triggers. We were talking, normally a trigger within Zapier would be a webhook, and the webhook would listen for certain data. Well, now we can actually have these events here. So a new profile visit event, a new message event, connection event, or an action event can be your actual triggers now in Zapier. So there's no need to copy and paste that webhook into Dux Soup options and etc. You can build your zaps based upon these particular trigger events, and hopefully towards the end of the demo I'll have time to show you that as well. This is all coming soon to Integromat as well, and what we're going to be doing is we're also going to be building some templates within Zapier to hopefully make it easier for everybody to access and to understand, and have some standard templates to work to. So we'll go on to the demo. I'm going to show you the remote control test tool. We're going to show you the Pipedrive and HubSpot easy triggers, if you like, a slightly more complex scenario builder using a basic Google Sheet and showing you how to trigger things. That's also completely applicable to other CRMs. Impossible to cover them all in one webinar, but I thought at least if I start with a Google Sheet, and then if people have questions further on relating to specific CRMs, then we can hopefully cover them then. Right, so let's get that one out of the way. And we will start with the remote control test tool. So this is the support page I showed just now. This is the remote control by example. What I'll do is I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Now, your remote control credentials are all accessed via your Dux-Soup options. So if I click on the Dux-Soup icon and I go to my Dux-Soup options, under the Connect tab, you can see down here under remote control, this is where these are your credentials here that you need to put into your chosen platform to make sure that everything is connected and being carried out by the correct platform. I've got mine turned off at the moment, and that's because I don't want it to actually do anything. What I'd like to do is queue things up so that they're there so you can see them being queued up. So so that's the actual remote control. That's where you'll find the remote control where you can enable it. And then if you scroll down this page towards the bottom, these are all the different commands, of course. You can actually test these commands. And if you go to this link here, you can then, within the remote control test tool here, take your chosen command, and you can see all of these different commands are available. Again, if I zoom in a little bit, because I'm aware that maybe it's not very easy to see because it's quite small. There we go. So what you can see here, all of those different commands that I mentioned just now, so visit, enroll, etc., are all available here. So if, for example, I wanted to see what the command was to enroll a profile, I can choose enroll profile. I can then choose, I could insert here my Dux-Soup campaign ID based upon what's in my Dux Dash, and then I'd need to put in my URL here of my target. If I just grab a LinkedIn URL to put in there, there we go. I put that one in there, and then if I just choose a date that I wanted to run it after, so say I want to run it after the 19th of August, 19th of August, I can have a look here to see exactly how the command looks, and I can indeed, in fact, even send that remote control command here to see if it works. So what I'll do then is if I open my Dux Dash, open up my Dux Dash, and if I have a look at my queued activity here, we should see that there's nothing queued here now. If I now go back to here and I send the test remote control command to enroll this URL here into my default campaign, send the remote control command, there we go. That should have gone through, and now if I refresh this page here, there we are. I've triggered a visit. Maybe did I choose the wrong thing there? There we go. It's because I didn't actually put the campaign ID in there. So that's why that's only just triggered a visit. But that's essentially how you can test to see if it's working. And you can see here that it's due to go after whatever date it was. So yes, it's chosen a time slot after that point. So I can now remove that from my entries. And that's how you can look to test your command, see what the command looks like, etc., and pull all of that information out there. Okay, so now if we talk about Pipedrive, so I'm sure that many of you are using one of the CRM integrations we've got. We've got Pipedrive and Hubspot here, and basically, if you're within Pipedrive, it's very, very straightforward to trigger remote control activities within here, and you can do this one of two ways. If you want to do it against an individual, you can just open one of the profiles. So let's open this one here. You can open a profile, and then here in the top right hand corner, you can see here you can enroll this person into your campaign. You can send them a message or indeed a connection request. If I chose enroll, that would then give me the option to enroll this person into one of my existing campaigns that I've defined. So if I, for example, enroll this individual into this campaign here, and I press OK. I've not enabled my Pipedrive connector, so that's not going to work, is it? If I enable that, then that might work. Let's try that again. There we go. There we are. One enrollment profile enrollment has been queued, and I don't want to send anything yet, so I will cancel that. But if I now look at my queued activity, oh, I just cancelled it. That's why it's not turned up. So yes, I cancelled that one a little bit too quickly. But yeah, that would have enrolled this individual into that campaign. But we saw that open up there. So that you can do that individually there from within Pipedrive. But you can also enroll for, or carry out these activities against a number of people. And what you could do is select, for example, several contacts within your list here, and then again in the top right hand corner you could enroll, send a message, or indeed a connection request. Remember, you need to have that LinkedIn URL. But so for example, if you had a group of people within your CRM that you wanted to send a standard message out to, you could press the send message here and you can type in your message here. If they're first degree connections, of course, you have a limit of 3,000 characters to send to them, and you can also still use the same markers that you use, oh, wrong one, underscore, that you use within your messaging within Dux-Soup. So you can still use that first name marker, last name, etc., etc., in order to send out that message. And if I then pressed OK, then all of these people would then get that message queued up to go to them. So that's how you can do that within Pipedrive. So let's just get rid of that a second. Within Hubspot, it's quite similar. If I take, for example, this individual here, there we go. And what you'll find down here in the bottom right-hand corner is you have these here: enroll, send message, updates, which would carry out an auto visit, or indeed to send a connection request. So if, for example, Jan Janssen here, if I wanted to enroll him into my campaign, what I'm going to do though is I'm going to just turn off my remote control so I don't actually execute any of these commands. If I wanted to, for example, enroll this person into my campaign, again, I would just choose my enroll, choose my selected campaign, press the OK button, and that will then, there you are, one profile enrollment has been queued. Exactly the same basically as doing within Pipedrive. And if I now go to my Dux Dash and I reload this, we should now see an enrollment activity against that particular individual. And if I'd chosen to send a message, then you would also see the message there. So if I now remove that and clear that one out, so we have clarity for the next step of the demo. So those are the really simple ones in Pipedrive and HubSpot. Now, if you want to do something in a little bit more complicated, I'm going to just demonstrate this in Zapier. So, for example, if you've got a scenario where you want to pick up whenever a new contact enters your CRM, for example, I can demonstrate this by through a Google Sheet. So what I've got here is a Google Sheet, which is a very simple Google Sheet, but just with a line with a few fields in here. So I'm just choosing to capture the LinkedIn ID, the URL, first name, last name, and degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some data in there first of all. Let's put a line of data into that sheet. So I've now got some information in there. And what I want to do is every time I populate a new URL into this column here, I would like a certain scenario to be run and triggered by the remote control, or carried out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new Zap for that. So if I press the Create Zap button here within Zapier, very similar activity in Integromat. If we have time, I can also touch on that later. So here, I'm just going to call this one webinar demo. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically, rather than previously we'd always use webhooks, what I'm going to look here is I'm looking for a change in something else other than in LinkedIn or in Dux-Soup. I'm looking for a change within my Google Sheet. It could be your CRM, for example. It could be a change of status against a contact. My trigger event here, I want to be, in this case, I'm going to say, right, I want a new, whenever there's a new spreadsheet row, and that will be instant. So I'm going to go for a new spreadsheet row. Whenever there's a new spreadsheet row, I want something to happen. Okay, so we'll press continue. Then I need to make sure I've linked my correct account, make sure that it goes to the correct account and it looks for the correct spreadsheet. There we are, we'll press continue. So my spreadsheet is this one here, Sheets Demo, hopefully the one at the top of the list. There we go. And the worksheet will be the default one. There's only one worksheet there. We'll press continue. There we go. So what I can do now, we'll find a recent spreadsheet row in this sheet and we'll check to make sure that it's connected correctly. We'll test the trigger and it should find that top list row. So there we are, there's my data from the first row here of my spreadsheet. Excellent, so we're good so far. So now what do I want to do? Well, actually what I want to do here is I want to add in a filter to only process data against contacts who are a first degree connection. So I'm going to put in here a filter and say, I'm only interested in processing these if in this degree, they're a first degree connection. So only continue if degree, in this case, I'm just going to say contains a number 1. I don't want to send a message or enroll anybody who's not a first degree connection, because I might be populating my spreadsheet automatically with all my profile views, and I may then want to only just, for example, process the first degree connections. There we are, my Zap will have continued because this one's passed the test. Okay, so now what I want to do, and this is where we get to see all of the new remote control commands available within Zapier. If I now type in Dux-Soup and we take the latest version here, there we go. Now I get to choose my event. So this is where I get to choose my action event. And here we can choose to visit a profile, enroll a profile, send a connection request, message, email, save, profile as lead, follow, endorse, tag, disconnect, and save to PDF. All of those are available to us. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to enroll the profile into a campaign. There we are. And what we'll do is we'll press continue. And now I need to make sure I've connected my accounts, again, using your Dux-Soup remote control credentials, which are available here at the bottom of your Dux-Soup Connect tab options. Make sure we're connected to the correct account, otherwise it won't work correctly. There we are, that's my account there. We'll press continue. And now we need to say, within the Zap, who is it we want to enroll? So this is where we say, well, I only want to, from my new spreadsheet row, I need to point it towards the URL, the target URL that I want to process. And now I get to choose my campaign. So from my Dux-Soup credentials, I can now also choose my campaign that I want to use. There we are, and delay the action until at least until. And here you can put in all sorts of different. There are all sorts of different date formats you can use here. So if I click on there, you get to see here, for example. So I could delay this to tomorrow at noon. So if I just copy and paste that into there, there we go. You can use that, for example. If I now press continue, so there we go. That's going to be delayed. You can see there, that's the command data that will be processed. I can now press test and continue. And what we'll see is we'll see this command being sent to Dux-Soup. There we are, it's just been sent across. So if I now go into here, into the Dux Dash, and I reload this, we can there see the enrollment is once again queued there. Now, if I wanted to, I can also add additional things to this this Zap. If I press close there and I say, right, now I'd also like, for example, Dux-Soup to go and perhaps, where is it? Endorse this profile. So I'd like to also endorse this profile. And when do I want to? I then again also need to make sure I choose the correct account. Just to do that. And then again, you point it towards the correct URL, make sure it's always going to the correct URL. And then you can, as with skills, you can always choose to endorse up to 5 skills, or from the top or from the bottom. I'm just going to choose to endorse the bottom 1. And again, here I can delay the action until at least, well, what I want to do here is I'm going to say in 4 days' time. So you have this option here within the time delays to always delay these activities to put in your own delays as to when they'll be processed. If I now press continue there, and again we press test and continue. So this command will also then be sent through, and what we should then again see here is this being queued up here within the queued activity. So there we go. So I'm going to be enrolling this person tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and then on the 21st I'll be visiting and endorsing this person. So that's how I can build this. Now I could also, for example, build a message flow. I could build a more complex scenario with paths with various different routes depending on the tags that people had. For example, you could do a search by tag and categorize people. Let's say if a lot of people will be doing this from within their CRM. So depending on the labels that your contacts have within your CRM, you can then build your own things. So just as a final one, we can also then say, yep, that's all okay. And then we're also going to say, we're also put in a final one just to show you how easy it is to add a message. We'll choose we'll just send a message to the profile as well. And once again, we'll add the credentials. And again, here we can just say, right, we make sure that we choose the correct URL. Message template to use. Now you could have something you can upload, but you can also say something like that. And you can also include them into a campaign as well. Now in this one, I'm going to say, well, I want to send this one in 15 days, for example. Press continue, and I'll press the test. And what we should see then is the third and final activity queued up here. There we go. So now I've got an enrollment, I've got an endorse, and I've also got a final send message there. So that way you can actually build your entire campaign from within Zapier or Integromat in a very similar way. And what should happen now is if I now go back to my Zapier, and if I turn it on, just wait for that to turn on. There we are. It's now enabled. So that's now sitting there and listening for a new spreadsheet row in my Google Sheet. So if I now go back to my Google Sheet, and this could be, you know, again, as I said earlier, your CRM. It could be a case that, you know, when you add in a new contact within your CRM, you will be then triggering these activities. If I now add some more URLs to my list here, there we go. If I do that a second, it doesn't happen immediately because it's not absolutely instantaneous, but very shortly, Zapier will recognize that there's 3 new rows here, there's 3 new URLs here, and it will pick up the fact that those 3 people need to therefore have all of those 3 activities carried out against them as well. If I go over to here and I can have a look at the Zap history and see if they have been processed yet. No, let's go to, where were we? That one there. Very shortly, we should see that this will actually run. And then in due course, we should see the additional things happening here. Of course, now it's going to take a little bit longer than usual because that's the nature of doing things live. Do bear with me. It should pick up those lists, those three activities shortly, and we should see. Yeah, it will happen in a second. When I was testing this earlier, it did take a few minutes in order to pick up the change within the Google Sheet. So we'll leave that one to run, and hopefully that will then pick that up. And what we should see then is all of those remote control commands being queued up here in your activities, in my activities, and all of that happening there as well. So as I said earlier, you could do this within Zapier or Integromat. Within Integromat, it's about building a new scenario, of course, and then you would, again, choose, for example, if you were doing it within Sheets, where's Google Sheets? There you are. You can choose Google Sheets and yeah, watch for changes, for example, watch for new rows, for example, and then do exactly the same as you're doing with Zapier, and making sure that you are processing the data. You can also then choose to have that row updated if you did a lookup in exactly the same way you could do with within your CRM. Now, I'm very, very aware that we have a multitude of CRMs being covered. I've seen an awful lot of requests for new integrations being mentioned recently against lots of different CRMs. So it's difficult to do a one scenario for everybody. But hopefully by going through just a very basic spreadsheet like this and just showing you how you can get the changes tracked, that you should be able to see that work. Now it's probably, there we go. So you can now see that for all of those people, these are the activities. If I look back here now and I just refresh this, we should be able to see, there we are. These are the activities. These are the 3 new lines that I added into my spreadsheet, and for each of those, it's queued up 3 new activities, and we can see those now under the Dux Dash. I've got the enrollment for each of the 4 lines now. I've got the endorsement for all the 4 lines, and I've also got the send message. If you, for example, had built a message flow there for various scenarios, then you would then see all of the messages queued up there accordingly. And as and when they would be executed, you can see here the timestamps that they'll be executed afterwards, as long as, of course, the remote control here is active. They won't get processed unless the remote control is active and your planner is active. So bear those things in mind as well, but that way you can build a really complex scenario. Now, finally, I'd like to also just touch on the new Zapier Triggers. Now, hopefully this is, as I'm speaking here, mostly to, I believe, Turbo users. I can also then talk about the Zapier Triggers, and hopefully that's not too far out of people's comfort zone. If I just go to here, let's create a new Zap again here. So that webinar demo one was the one that I've just created. So I'm now going to create a new Zap. Now, previously we were always going to, from this stage here, if we were going to build a Zap involving a trigger from Dux-Soup, we would always go to the webhook function here. What we can do now is we can actually just go straight to Dux-Soup here. There we go. We go to Dux-Soup, and if I now can choose a trigger event, here we go, I have now my trigger events, and they can be a visit event, a message event, a connection event, or an action event. So when a new connection has been added, for example, or from when a message is received, or from when I carry out a visit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new profile visit event. That's going to be my trigger here. And if I press continue, I now need to select the correct Dux-Soup account, as always, of course. There we go. And now I need to decide what I want to capture. Do I want to capture all visit events? Do I want to capture only visits from first degree connections, or ones that include an email address, or indeed first degree connections that have an email address? I'm going to say here, I want to capture all events. And if I press continue here, there we go. If I now just do a quick test, it'll pick up a recent first degree connection that I've carried out. There's one there. That's a recent first degree connection that I've carried out. If I now just press continue there, I can now choose what I want to do to that data. What I'm just going to do here is call this, save this so it has a name so I know what it's called. So what do I want to do with that data? Well, what I can do now is I could actually say, well, I'd like to add that data into my Google Sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the same Google Sheet that I had just now. So we'll go to that one there, and I'm going to say, well, what do I want to do? I just want to create a new row for each time I've carried out a visit. There we are, create my spreadsheet row. I could do a lookup, I could do all the complex things that you can do with Zaps, as we've done before. Now choose my correct account as always. There we go. Let's wait for that. And I'm going to say here, well, I think it's just the default drive. There we go. And my spreadsheet will be the Sheets demo one that I was using just now. And my worksheet will be the standard one. Press continue. So there we go. So now what I've got is these are the this is the data that I want to capture. I'm going to create a row in the spreadsheet, and we will press test and continue. There we go. So what will happen there is it will yeah, it did a create spreadsheet row. So what should happen there is except it's done a search. That's interesting. That's not what I was expecting it to do. Ah, it's because I didn't map the data. There we go. That would be better, wouldn't it? Trying to do things too quickly. Excuse me. What I need to do is map the data across there. So I've got these columns here to fill in. Dear me. Right, so I'm going to put in the LinkedIn ID. Where's the LinkedIn ID? There we are, profile ID. Just thinking that wasn't quite right. The LinkedIn URL, let's populate that one. Somewhere down here. Where is it? And now I can't see it. Profile URL, there we go. They can change the order again at Zapier. We'll add in first name and last name, and then I'm going to add in degree here. There we go. I saw it just then. There we are, connection degree first. There we go. Press continue. That'll work better now. And what we'll do is we'll turn this one on. There we go. And what we can see now is if I was now to carry out some auto visits against some profiles, they would then automatically be populated in here. And of course, every time that the line got populated in here, my other Zap would then pick that up. So if I just, for example, go to my regular LinkedIn page now, and just carry out a few auto visits against some profiles here. To make sure I'm not going to carry out any automated actions a second. There we go. And if I just carry out a few profile visits against this list of people here, there we go. We'll just leave that to run a second. What we should see is each of these people then being populated within my spreadsheet. And then, of course, if they're a first degree connection, because I've got that filter on, then they would then also get the subsequent remote control activities queued up. As you can see, none of these are first degree connections. So what we will see here gradually, there you are, we can see here already that first person has been populated in here. Now, of course, you could put far more extensive information into your spreadsheet, but I'm just using this for demonstration purposes so that you can see exactly how that works. And I've been able to do all of that without doing the tricky and sometimes messy webhook activity that we've done in the past. So each of these activities, so it's populated the first one, it's now onto the second one. And what we'll see in a second, we'll see a new line appear here. And then, of course, if any of them are first degree, then they would get queued up against my other remote control activity. This simple way of doing the triggers will also be coming to, there we are, so there's Ron added there, you can see that one just come in there. This will also be added to Integromat very shortly, something we're working on at the moment. And as I said, we will be building some templates as well within Zapier, which will also make things easier for users as well. Okay, one last thing, if I just stop that one there we go. Remember, if you want to connect with me, this is me on LinkedIn, feel free to send me a connection request. Quite happy to engage with people on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request with a message. It's always nice to hear from people. Dux-Soup users, feel free to message me, and yeah. But if we just go back to the slides, let's get that back up on. There we go. We've been through the remote control test tool. We've had a look at the Pipedrive and Hubspot, the easy triggers, the remote control triggers from there. We looked at a more complex scenario builder, and we've kind of, feels like we've kind of scrape the surface there a little bit, but hopefully it gives you an idea how easy it is and all of the different remote control commands that are available. Actually, before I go any further, I will just show you the remote control commands that are available here within Integromat as well. If I just go to Dux Soup here, there we are. You can see all of those remote control commands there are available as well as they are within Zapier, so you can see all of those there. Of course, you need that LinkedIn URL in order to be able to carry out those activities, but you can see them all there as well. There we go. And yeah, I've talked about the new Zapier triggers. Coming up in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be looking at boosting your LinkedIn leads with advanced targeting techniques. So we're going to be looking at optimizing searches and using what we call lists within LinkedIn. It's something I think we last touched on about 18 months ago. Had a couple of updates since then, but we'll be looking at how to maximize your targeting activities within LinkedIn and how that can help you to streamline your Dux-Soup activities, and also, clearing up exactly what is a list. What will Dux-Soup be able to carry out its automated actions against? So that's hopefully will be useful for everybody. That's coming up in 2 weeks' time. As always, mention this one, the booster and the technical sessions. There's lots of time slots available at the moment, summertime, so I think there's lots of people on holiday, but if you're just getting started with Dux-Soup, I recommend a booster session. If you're looking for more technical help, perhaps with building a scenario with the Integromat, or perhaps integrating using Zapier, or indeed you need help with your Hubspot or Pipedrive integration, you can book technical sessions or booster sessions accordingly. Our usual page of Dux-Soup Links, of course, we've got our new website, which was launched back in June with the new branding, etc., etc. So hopefully that's everyone's getting more familiar with where to find stuff and everything. But we have these standard links as well. Jin, any questions?
Yes, I have a couple. So the first question would be, can you group enroll in HubSpot? There were quite a few questions from a few users.
Can you group enroll in HubSpot? That's
yeah, so at the moment, like, in Pipedrive, you can select a couple of contacts and then click to enroll or visit. But in HubSpot, you have to, at least before, you have to open every profile and then do these tasks. I think this hasn't changed.
I'm not familiar with the fact that you can. I was talking to somebody the other day who was doing who was creating some automated tasks within HubSpot, and if you're a more advanced HubSpot user, I think there is a way to do it, but I'm not familiar with it, I must admit. So I'm not sure how you would do that. I'm afraid I'm not a HubSpot expert, unfortunately. So yes, I'm not aware of it. Are you, Jin?
I think Dux-Soup functions are not available if you select
right. Yeah, multiple contacts.
Yes, it's just only individual.
Only on an individual
we're talking to adding this function in the future, but at the moment it's not available. I was thinking maybe it was added. Yeah.
No, not yet.
And the second question would be, we have connected Zoho CRM directly with Dux-Soup. We will be able to use the remote control functions without embedding any other tools like Zapier?
If they've integrated directly themselves, you say?
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you're able to get the commands processed. If you go to, as I say, the test tool, which we had up earlier. Where did I put that? Let me try and find the test tool again. We'll find it in a second. There we go. Bear with me 1 second. So yeah, if there's a way that you can get the commands to be sent accordingly through your integration, then yes, absolutely, you can. I've spoken to people who are using JavaScript, for example, in order to send these these commands accordingly. And yeah, as long as you've got the correct target and everything set up accordingly. We also this was a while ago now. Let me just see if I can find it. It was under the blogs, I believe. We showed how to do this via PHP, didn't we? That was sometime last year, I think. There we are. So you can automate the API using this way. It was a fairly complex way, but you can also do it via JavaScript. There's all sorts of ways of sending the command. If you've built your own integration, then it should be fairly straightforward.
Thank you. Another question would be, can you enroll a list in LinkedIn Sales Navigator or only on LinkedIn Search?
It only works within, unfortunately, within the search. If I just go to LinkedIn Sales Nav, let's just wait a second for this to load. There we go. Unfortunately, the enrollment buttons only work against search results at the moment. So if we go to, for example, a lead list here, let's just go there. You can run Dux-Soup against this list normally. So there you are. You can see here with Dux-Soup recognizes as a list that it can process against. Unfortunately, there's not adequate data here available within this list here to be able to enroll people. It only works against, here we go. Let's just take this one here, for example, a standard search page. So if I open up here a search page here within Sales Navigator, and that's where you get the widget here pop up, and you can then see here you could enroll these people against your chosen campaign. Unfortunately, yeah, it's only against the search results within standard LinkedIn and Sales Navigator that the Dux-Soup Tricks widget, that's a bit of a mouthful to say, works, unfortunately. We're always looking for ways that we can improve it, but at the moment it's due to the data that's available on the different pages, the different types of data that's available. It's one of the limitations of the LinkedIn platform, unfortunately.
Thank you. That's it at the moment. I do not have any further questions.
Okay, and now I've lost the slides. I don't know where the slides went then. Oh well, bear with me 1 second, I'll find the slides again. Where did they go? Oh, there we go. There, that's where they are. There we go. So just as a reminder, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be looking at optimizing searches, using Boolean search options and those sorts of things, terminology, identifying which lists work against which activities within LinkedIn. I think we've just touched on one of them there in the answer there to the enrollment question. And yeah, helping you optimize your LinkedIn activity and making the most of Dux-Soup within that environment. If there's no further questions, then I think we'll wrap that up for today. Thank you to Jin, as always, for her help in trying to keep up with the questions and answers via the chat. And I look forward to speaking to you all in 2 weeks' time. And if it's that time of year for you, enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next webinar.